and introduce yourself and kind of about, how many kids you have and homeschooling and what curriculum you use and why. And then we'll get into, I gotta get in here. It's going the wrong way. And kind of the style of your homeschooling and just a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm Mo, and I have been homeschooling. This will be our 8th year. I've homeschooled from the very beginning. I taught middle school English, Bible, history, and science at a small Christian school in North Carolina. And it was kind of through that process that I realized I was capable of homeschooling my own kids. I just didn't really think that there was a whole lot more that they were doing that I couldn't do. And so from the time that we started having kids, we decided to homeschool and try it with the game plan that if it didn't work, we would put them in private school, possibly public school, depending on where we live. Both myself and my husband grew up in public school, and we turned out okay, but it's much different now, obviously, than it was then, as we are all seeing today with COVID-19 and all of the different restrictions. So we started with preschool and went all the way up. I have a rising 6th grader and a rising 5th grader. They're a year apart. They do not do their core subjects together. They are completely different children. One could read before she was in kindergarten. The other one, I still have to crack the whip to get her to read. So they are just not at the same place, and that's fine. They do all of their side subjects together. So history, science. If we do art, which is not my forte at all, then they do all of that stuff together. But they do language arts and math completely separately. They are not even in the same books at all. And I would say I was diagnosed with breast cancer 6 years ago, and I'm totally in the clear, but that also taught me very early on that life happens. And if my kids had to go to public school for any reason at all, they needed to be on grade level or above. I did not want my kids entering into school being the homeschooled kids that are behind and the teacher has to hold their hand. So that has been my commitment. So we homeschool year round because we like to take most of December off, and we have family that comes and visits. None of our family is local. So they come out and they'll stay for a month at a time, and we just do light school or no school, and we have that freedom. So we did school this morning. We did math and language arts, and that's all we did for today. And we'll do that all week and probably start throwing some history back into it and starting to get ready for the school year to start in September. And I also do that because I found that in September, I was having to reteach half of last school year because they would forget everything. And I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. We're just doing year round. So currently, we use mostly the good and the beautiful for language arts, history, science, handwriting, and that's all we use it for. And I just want to throw a disclaimer out there so that people don't just tune out right now, that the creator of the good and the beautiful is Mormon. None of her curriculum is Mormon. None of it. None of it has any mention of Mormonism. None of it is trying to convert you. None of it is trying to underhandedly sneak in their theology. There is really no theology in any of her curriculum because she thinks theology should come from the home, not from her curriculum. It's just simply good. It's beautiful. It does have some Bible verses from the New Testament and the Old Testament, but none of it is doctrine. None of it is theology. She wants you to pick out your own Bible curriculum and teach that to your own kids. She does not think that that should come from her curriculum. So just because the author, the creator is Mormon, none of that is in her curriculum. And she has a whole team of people who are writing her curriculum that are not Mormon. So do not be scared off by what you might see on other Facebook pages, other people who are not using it. They just heard she's Mormon and now they're bashing it. And if you're a Mormon, like, we're not bashing you. I have found this to work very well. So that is my spiel for the good and the beautiful about Mormonism. And we just kind of take life one day at a time. If a field trip comes up, we don't do school. If there's no field trip, we do school. If we've been invited to swim at the pool, we double down and do 2 days of school so we can go to the pool. And that's what we do. So if we get a lot of snow and I have to shovel a lot, we might not be doing school that day. So it depends on the day. And I'm going to start off with levels.
I was going to say a comment too about that, about the good and the beautiful. And I want to call it the bold and the beautiful. I was typing to Mo and messaging her, and she's like, I kept saying the bold and the beautiful. She's like, it's the good and the beautiful. And I was like, oh, that's like a soap opera, right? The bold and the beautiful. And she's like, well, it is kind of a soap opera.
It is kind of a soap opera. And, my life is kind of a soap opera. Sometimes I have 2 girls, and there's a lot of drama going on in our house. So,
right. But I think most of the curriculums and even on different sectors of religion, I think they do try to most curriculums for the most part, unless if you're specifically going for, I have a fly here, specifically going for a curriculum that you want it to be in whatever category, whatever, religious category you fall in, then you can choose that. But, like that, I think there's a few of them, but like the good and the beautiful, they do have biblical concepts, but you could find them right in, your Holy Bible that you have. And so they're not taken away from that or adding to it. They're just actually what is in there. And you can back that up and it's sound as far as that goes. So, and then just adding in your own Bible curriculum. Does she have one though? Like, let's say that they are Mormon. Does she have a Bible curriculum that she has done?
So I've heard that she does. But you have to ask her. You have to write to them and ask them for that information. It's not not on the website that I've seen.
Okay.
And if you have older kids, so this really is geared towards younger kids because her kids were younger. So she had the curriculum written towards her age group kids. And then she had lots of people come to her and go, oh my gosh, this is what I'm looking for. And that's how it became more than just for her. And so they are developing high school and middle school, but it's really in the works. It's bare bones. It's grassroots. Should be coming out in the next, I want to say early high school might already be out. And every year she comes out with more. And I also want to say that if you've looked at her stuff before and found it to be too intensive, they are redoing all of the lower levels. And from what I have seen after looking at it for the last 4 days, the new stuff is so much more schedule friendly. It really is in a lesson instead of having to jump around and come back and do one of these sections each day until you're done. And then you're having bookmarks in your book, trying to figure out where you are. And I'm very organized, so that does not bother me. I write it down. I use little flags. It's not a big deal. But for some people, they may be very frustrated with that. And the newest edition is just each day is a day. There is no going back, doing more dictation. It's just each assignment is a day and you're done. And the other thing that I have found is just that what sold me on this was I was to my wit's end. I was on my 4th or 5th curriculum trial, and my kids were crying, or I was crying, or we both were crying. We hated it. We hated whatever we were doing. It wasn't working. Too many worksheets, not enough worksheets. There was no balance. And I was literally crying at my computer. I went to Kathy Duffy's site, which she gives her top 102 recommended list. And I'm looking through it and it's so overwhelming. And at this time, my kids were in kindergarten and 1st grade. And I was like, I can't struggle for another 12 years. I can't do this. We have to find something that works. And I just was like, Lord, I need you to show me because I can't do this. And there was a little banner flashing and I clicked on it. Good and the Beautiful. Her first 5 levels, not including kindergarten, so just level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, are all free for download. Every one of them. You can look at them in their entirety and download them to your Google Drive or to your iBooks, if you can transfer it that way, or just as a PDF on your computer. You can go through it on your iPad with your kids and only print out the worksheets. And that's what we did. For the first year, we only did it digitally because I didn't want to spend the money. And when I realized how wonderful this curriculum was, I paid for it, I ordered it, and we've been hooked. And my kids don't cry. They they just do their assignments mostly with me, and we press on. There's no, it's very friendly to use. And I love that she offers it for free. And it's very affordable if you do order it, a hard copy of it, like $60 for a whole language arts program for a kid. To me, that's very affordable. And I just sent him an email yesterday. I have not heard back yet about some of this stuff is consumable and some of it isn't, like the readers. And so I told them, hey, I have 2 kids. Can I only get the consumable stuff on for the second kid? Because I don't want to have to order readers for my second kid when I already have them from my first kid. And right now they're not broken up, but I feel like they used to be. So I'm hoping to hear back and have them say, yep, you can just only order the consumables and be good.
And by what you mean by they changed the curriculum and everything, they made it more user friendly.
Yes.
Not more easier as far as the academic wise.
No, and academic wise, that's the other thing, that there's lots of on there. If you go to their Facebook page, there's lots of banter back and forth of, oh, well, my kid is in like 5th grade, but they tested into level 3. Her levels are not grade levels. They're just levels. And so you do a placement test. It's online. Wherever your kid places their test, you start them there. Maybe if you haven't done a whole lot of diagramming and sentences, if you're pulling them out of school and now you're homeschooling them, or you're not sending them back because of COVID, and maybe your kid never has diagrammed, but they're in 5th grade, you wouldn't want to start them in level 5 because they would be completely lost. They've never diagrammed. And you might start them even at level 2. And this is why I say do the digital, because they might fly through it, grasp it, and be done with level 2 in like a month. And then you can just go straight on to level 3 until you find out really solidifying the foundations of language arts, of knowing their parts of speech, where to use them, how to make them plural, all of this kind of stuff. So her levels are not a grade level. You cannot assume my rising 6th grader is finishing level 4 and my rising 5th grader is finishing level 3. Now we took a year off to do something else, to kind of break it up a little bit, but you cannot think that just because it's level 5 that it's 5th grade.
Okay.
It might not be.
And you can probably mix and match that too.
Yes.
With like your language arts. Your kid might be at a level 6, but in math they might be at a level 3. And if you skip any of those concepts that are learned in between, because everything is different. My kids have been diagramming sentences since 1st grade.
Right.
Because of the curriculum that we use for that. So if you kind of skip things around, then they're going to be missing a lot of things. Just like with math, you see, they had done, I think we started that in the 2nd grade with my oldest kid. And there were some concepts that he had missed, or there's some mastery that had not happened. And
right.
So I think we started over from the beginning, but we breezed through it. If he
right.
got the concept really fast, we might do a worksheet. And I guess primer, they don't have a test, but the next level, a worksheet and a test. And if he
right.
got that concept, we would move on through. And some of them, they were way too easy, so he didn't even have to, do them. If he could just do the test and have the concept down, we'd move. And I think we moved fairly. I think we're a year behind as far as if you did it by grade level.
Right.
With that. And so, and just like my daughter, she's probably 3 grades ahead in language arts now.
Right.
And that's just how it's worked out. But she's where she should be at as far as if I sent her back to public school, she would probably be at her right level as far as what she was learning. So that's good to know. And you can also, your science and your history, and your art and all that, you can combine your kids, correct?
Yes.
So you don't have
to do all of that together. And she does history and her science where it's not really designed to be done more than two times a week. So if you want to do history every day, let's say your kid loves Alfred the Great and you're all crazy about history, I'm not really, then you could do it every day. But it's designed to do twice a week, and then science is designed to do twice a week, and then you would do art or something like that on Friday.
Right. And I've learned that I think most, even in public schools and with homeschooling, you do the basis of it when you're younger, and then it's all repeated more in depth as you get older. So,
Yes.
you know, you in I think probably second grade, you learn American history. And then once you get into, you know, your high school years, you'll learn it again. You froze up. Uh-oh. Mo froze. Let me see if I can message her. She might have to re-sign back in. Let's see. I'm going to message her. Let's see. If you guys are watching, go ahead and drop a comment. You froze. Okay. Can I remove her? We've been having some trouble today. So we'll just wait for her to sign back in and hopefully she can get that internet back up, because next she's going to go ahead and show us into the actual curriculum as soon as she can get back in here. So, and maybe I can pull up the Good and the Beautiful site. See if she's okay. There she is. You're back.
I'm back.
I was like,
I don't know what
happened. I had issues today too, and it's just like, oh, no, not when you're live, please.
I know. Come on.
Yeah. So go ahead and kind of show us inside the curriculum. And you said this is for what grades?
So this is
Or
level
level?
3. And I'm
Okay.
going to show you what the old looked like in case people, like, I kind of went ahead and bought stuff. Like when I bought my level 3 for my older daughter, I just went ahead and bought level 3 for my younger daughter. And then now they've changed it. So if you already have the old, and I also kind of want people to see the difference, because then they'll know. If they looked at it 2 years ago, they'll say, oh, wow, that really is way better to use than it used to be. So I'm going to show you both, and then yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna turn my camera around here and show you. All right, so this is the old level 3, and I'm going to show you kind of what we did today.
Okay.
And her whole premise is that everything is good and everything is beautiful. So you're going to be guaranteed that all the readers that she suggests, everything in her library that she suggests, does not have any foul language. If the main characters are sassy, then you're not going to find that on her list. So anything that might be contradictory to like the Bible, she is not going to have as part of her reading suggestions. If there's disrespect towards parents and it's actually condoned or thought to be cool, not going to be part of her plan. And I really liked that because we have enough sass that comes naturally. I don't really need to feed that. So this would be, so she goes through all the spelling rules, and I would break this up so that this is like, I break it up to like A, B, and C, and then D. And I would do all of those on different days. And I would write that in my planner so that you can see that on like today, this is all that we did. So we did B and C from lesson 54, and then we went to lesson 55 and did all of that. And then we did one section of lesson 56. So this is what like it would look like. So we dictate this, she writes them out. So she learns how to make things plural, and we correct them as we go. And then she has a lot of geography and a lot of art in her curriculum. So then we talk about the poles, and keep going over North America. My child is really frustrated by that, but I'm like, well, till you learn, then you're just going to do it. And then we did a section on capitalization rules and one worksheet, which she got several wrong. I'm like, I don't know why you don't understand this, but I guess whatever. So that would be like one of her days of that. She learns how to edit the story. So I would put like a piece of paper over this bottom where I just tear it up and fold it under, and she would have to find all the punctuation mistakes and edit that. And then I would go over it with her. Lots of poetry. I'm not really a poetry fan. So this is one lesson, and it's got several poems that she's supposed to read out loud twice to me. And she would die if she had to do all of that in one day. She would be stomping her feet and getting really angry. She has red hair, so she comes by it naturally. And so I break anything that's like this into two things because she just thinks it's stupid. So, and it's to each their own, so we would split that into 2 days, and then we would go into diagramming sentences and doing, I guess, direct objects and stuff like that. For an example of the art, so a lot of what she does is she'll take this piece of art and she'll talk about where the artist was from. In this level, a lot of it's European art. So then you would have a geography lesson. So if they were from Germany, you would have to find Germany on the globe and on the map. You'd have to label it, all the countries surrounding it. You would maybe talk about population and climate that goes on in Germany, and have a little kind of history lesson with that. Her language arts, you would look at this and you would find 5 adjectives. You'd find 3 nouns. You would look for things like light and dark inside of it. And then you would have to write a couple of sentences about it, maybe a paragraph. And that would be what you would do. Maybe even talk about how times were simpler. Back here, this is like an old grandma, and she's got like what looks like her family around her. So she would probably include in this lesson, I know in past lessons she has the importance of family, the fact that the grandma is the only one that's sitting on a chair. So she would go into respect, how we respect our elders, that these 2 kids over here are not nagging their parents. They're playing quietly together and she's listening. So it's those kinds of concepts that you find constantly throughout all of this curriculum. It's stuff that reinforces family values and respect. Here you have another piece of art that we thought was really beautiful. Just the purple hat and just this golden dress. And you talk about colors and what pops and having, what's the focus of the picture, what's going on, maybe make a story about it. So that is, and a lot of these same art are in her new version, but there may be, the assignments are shorter and not, maybe the geography lesson is like the next day. It wouldn't be in the same day where you would go, oh my gosh, my child is falling apart and I need to spread this out in 2 days. So I'm going to show you that on my iPad. Whoops. Okay. So this is the new one. And she talks about like, what's the difference? Like, how did she change it? What do you need? She tells everything in the very beginning of what you need. Most of this stuff is stuff that you have at home. You should not have to go buy things, cinnamon, baking soda, molasses, stuff like that. What's going on with the course? She has a lot of dictation because it's not enough in her mind to just know how to spell things by looking at them. You need to know if you're listening. So I will say this, I do not like the way she does spelling. We have our own spelling. I don't like the reflection that's on that. We have our own spelling that we use that's separate than what she does. So I go through all the rules, but I do not give spelling tests out of her spelling because I haven't liked it in the past. Maybe that would change if I was using her new version. So let me go to like one of the lessons. Okay, so here we have her very first lesson, and she breaks it up, and this is all meant to happen in like one sitting. And I would say a sitting takes anywhere about 30 minutes, maybe max. So you're just talking about this. Then she has you look at this art and talk about what's happening in the picture. One of the questions was, what would you ask these 2 siblings if you were there with them? Like what's going on? Then they have their independent work. This is the main part that's different in the new curriculum. Every single day they have independent work. So it's not all mommy and me sitting there doing this work forever or whatever. It's like they have their own assignment. It's 1 page, bam, you move on to the next page, the next day for the next day. And again, like if they're awesome and they're like, dude, I already know all this, they can fly through it. If your kid is not really into art, maybe you might not love this, but my girls have really loved looking at art. We don't live in a big city, so we don't get to go to a lot of museums. They're not seeing a lot of really beautiful old art. And anymore, a lot of the art nowadays is just kind of, I don't know, kind of junky. So also it comes with a couple of readers. Now the reader's a little bit different, but I did notice that in this copy of my reader, there are several that are the same. And so this is another thing that I like about the new version, is she never really told you when to read this. It was like you were just supposed to sit down and read it on your own time. Well, that wasn't really happening in our house. In the new curriculum, it'll actually say, in your reader, read the first chapter of the Native Americans, and then it will have questions that you have to answer. And so each, page, it's got different pictures in it. Some of it's kind of old school, and the chapters are short, and then you'd answer your questions. And this is she's probably beyond a lot of this now, because we really started this a year and a half ago and then took a break to do Prairie Primer. And now we've gone back to this. So she would probably just zoom right through this. She's reading way better. The Tale of Jolly Robin. So a lot of classics, and a lot of poetry and stuff like that. So that's the level 3. And if I wasn't already more than halfway through level 3, I would go ahead and order the new copy, because I really like the way she's done it. Now this is level 4. She takes a huge jump in level 4, and it becomes almost completely independent. Like, it is literally very little involved with me. So it starts off, she has to read these words to me, and then she reads this out loud to me, and then she does the rest of it all on her own. She has a daily spelling drill. She's supposed to look at the words, say it, cover it, write it, check it. Again, we do different spelling, and then it always has reading. So she's reading the book, The Belgian Twins, and it's got a chapter in with all of, like, each chapter is in with each day. So it's not an additional reader. It's just in with the curriculum, and she does that on her own. It's broken up into 2 different workbooks. So at the back of the first workbook is all of the answers for the second workbook. So this is like the teacher's guide. So in case you're like, wow, I haven't diagrammed sentences in like 35 years, I don't remember what that part of speech is, you don't have to try to figure it out. Like, it tells you what the answer is, and you can check it. But her answers for this book are not in this book. They're in the other one, so she can't cheat, and she doesn't have a way out. Now, this curriculum also then has an art lesson with it, a creative companion. So each lesson will have a creative companion. So you're supposed to set your timer for 60 seconds during lessons 35, and observe the painting on the opposite page, which is right here. And you're just supposed to spend some time looking at it, and then you can talk about it. You can write something about it. You can write how it made you feel. You're just learning how to look at art and enjoy it with that page. And then the next couple of days, they're supposed to write a story, and they're supposed to use dialogue and description. If you've already finished your story, then you can spend some time doing personal reading. And then you go back through and you edit your story, you add sensory language, similes, and then by the, however long it takes, then you should have your finished copy to give to your parent or send to your grandparents or whatever. These are some of the books that are included with this level. The Big Wave by Pearl S. Buck, and the 20 and 10. And so both of these are kind of old books, but they look to be pretty good. I'm kind of excited. I'm a little jealous that she'll be reading them on her own. I might have to read them. They're really teeny and thin, which is also good because my kids both have their own things that they like to read. So if there's too much assigned reading, they're kind of like, but I want to read my Guardians of Gahul book. And it's like, well, there's not enough time in the day. Now, this is her handwriting. I love her handwriting. She has done some studies with left brain and right brain, so that if you draw pictures, it actually helps you in the process of cursive to write better. It helps, I don't know what it does, but it like triggers the other side of your brain. So this one she already did. This is level 5 handwriting, and she's on the last level actually because she really has good writing. My other one might be in level 3 for like till she graduates high school. I'm not really sure yet.
I have like 5 of those, so yeah.
I'm like, okay, can we try to make your letters nicer? Just try. No, this child aims to write fancy and to write nicely. So she has really nice handwriting. This is from a couple of years ago. And you just go through, and it has like, it reinforces different grammar concepts. So never capitalize the name of seasons. And then she's supposed to do the copy work so that it's kind of killing two birds with one stone. And you just work through it. Here's one of the art things. So part of it's drawn for you, and then you're supposed to copy it from the top and add what's missing. And somehow that links between the sides of your brain when it comes to cursive. And this is my child who really likes art. If you saw the other one, she would probably have just like drawn a triangle and called it a day and been done. Because, life is all about playing. So if you're not playing, then you're not having fun. And she would rather be having fun. So, again, different things that are reinforced as they're writing them. I love learning, choose the right. I love reading. Just different beautiful concepts that instead of, I hate handwriting sucks. Like it's that, this is what she's copying out are positive, messages. And I really like that. And coloring. So that's the handwriting. She has 7 different levels. I finally just started buying the PDF and printing it because I have an awesome printer rather than buying it twice for the next kid.
Right.
Especially because my next kid really doesn't love handwriting. So I'm just kind of like, there you go. Now we're also doing typing.
On these, sorry to interrupt you, on the curriculums, can you order separate things? So like if I really like the handwriting that you just showed me, that's a struggle in my house. I could just go ahead and order that separately.
Yes. The only thing that like comes in groups would be like the language arts is like a group, but I think you can actually like order an extra creative notebook. So you can break it up. If you're like, you know what, I do a different handwriting, then you don't have to order her handwriting. It's not like part of the language arts. And I think that her handwriting, each level is like $12. I mean, like it's really not expensive. It's very affordable. So we do typing as well when we can remember. My children may never learn how to type at the rate that we're going, but we're trying. It comes with the stickers in the front, and then each day that you do your assignment, you would stick a sticker. So here's this lesson 11. So you're supposed to type the poems below, including the title and the name of the poet. Use your mouse to select the title of the poem, increase the font size and title, and make the title bold. And I have them do this on the computer. They save the document. It's just ongoing so that at the end of the school year, they have all of their typing 1 in one document and all of their typing 2 in another document. I can print it. I can file it. We have proof with this as well. And then you pick a sticker, put it there, and call it a day. And this is also not necessarily meant to be done every day, which I'm very thankful for because we are not real diligent with this. But I'm hoping this coming school year that we will be. So, and it has pretty little pictures. So that's the typing. I think that there's 3 levels. We're still in level 1, but I have level 2 if we ever get to it. Then we have the history and a sleeping cat. So this is her history. And she has, I think, 3 histories. This is meant to be done spiral. So you go through this more than once. And when you order it, I ordered both the PDF and the hard copy because each lesson has worksheets and they're broken up into age groups. So you have like little people's worksheets where it's maybe a coloring page. You color a picture of George Washington and call that a day and file it. The 3rd through 5th grade, maybe you're answering a few questions or writing a couple of sentences. And then the older kids, theirs is much more involved as far as their assignment goes. So this one, I thought that this was cool. So when they talk about the spread of Christianity and in Ireland and St. Patrick, she also has an audio recording that you get the password for, and it's almost like Adventures in Odyssey.
Okay.
So and my kids love it.
And I love this story too of St. Patrick. I do love this story.
Yes. And so they absolutely, they cannot wait to listen to the read aloud, the little audio story thing. So that happens, not quite every day, but a couple of times a week. So I would say like maybe 3rd lesson, there's like the audio.
Okay.
And then she has like activities like make, Irish soda bread, and it tells you what you need and you do all of that. And then she has read alouds. So all of these, if I remember correctly, I had to order this as like an add-on. So you can just get the history. And if you don't want the read alouds, because either you A, hate reading aloud, or B, your library has all of them, so you don't need to spend the money on the books, then you don't have to do that. But here's the read alouds for this certain history. So the Golden Goblet, which we really loved, but I did not love reading it out loud. And I had my library order it as an audio. And once we got the audio book for it, we loved it. A lot of the names are hard to say. It was just kind of hard to read. So, but it's a great story. We loved it. Then we had The Door in the Wall. Again, we really loved that one as well. Then we had The American Twins of the Revolution, which is kind of hard to read aloud because it kind of has that very typical Southern slave hand dialect that I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm from the South, so I know I don't sound like it because I was raised by Northern parents, but I grew up in Florida. And so I'm very familiar with that dialect. I loved reading this one out loud. It was super fun. And my kids loved this book. And this is going to be our next one that we go into. And then this one also comes, I ordered this one. She has other ones. Like if you are not interested or you want to order something else, she has like a whole list of other options. And so I'm kind of looking forward to that one as well. So lots of fun read alouds with that. And so you go through, a lot of this is like read to your children. If you have older children, what I would do is I would have them work on their coloring page, because a lot of them are coloring pages from like 4th grade down. So you color this picture while I read aloud to you. And then I would read this and we would kind of talk about it. And then she has another book that comes with it. So then it says, read the story, Life in Medieval Monastery, on this other book that she has. So this comes with it. It's part of the curriculum. It's the big book of history stories. And this is the life of the medieval monastery. And it's just a really short story. And it talks about like what's a monastery set up like, because The Door in the Wall takes place in a monastery. So that should all be kind of familiar to them. It just talks about what did monks do? What was their role? Copying the scriptures, that kind of stuff. And then you're done. And then in a few days, you're going to read one of the next ones. And it's just filled with, just really nice stories that are short and can get you together on your couch and teach you history. So it also comes with a game that, I got to be honest with you, we've not really played it because I feel like you need to already have gone through this once or have a little more history. This was the first history we did. So like my kids didn't even know who George Washington was when we started. So to play a game and ask them questions about George Washington, they would not have been able to answer these questions. And so the way this is set up, it's got a little board game. You roll the dice and then you land on the 5th space and you pick out the George Washington card, which is over here. And the parent reads the George Washington. No, that's Thomas Jefferson. The George Washington. So here's George Washington. He's worth 5 points. And you pick, depending on your kid's level, like number 1 is for the smaller kids. 2 is for like the maybe intermediate. And then 3 would be for your older kids. And you leave it blank where the red is. And if they can fill in the blanks, they get this card and they put this little black thing on there and that space is taken. Nobody else gets to read from George Washington during the game. And you set your timer. You only play for 20 minutes or until the game is done. Whoever has the most cards at the end of the game wins. And so that sounds pretty fun. Now my girls know more about history. We will probably start playing this fall and really utilize that. For history too, because I do like her history and I'll probably order it again for this volume 2. These are just some more of the read alouds that she recommended. So I went ahead and ordered them off Thrift Books. And then science. So we do science and we kind of do it a little bit. I'm not going to say it's a co-op, but we do it with another family right now. So we meet once a week or once every other week and we do a lesson. And all of our kids have been pretty young. Right now, that might have to change because now I've got a 6th grader and I feel like we need to be doing more science. But we've done arthropods, the human body, and energy. And this is you know, and you can get these as PDFs as well. They don't come bound because there's things that you need to make copies of. So you're in charge of binding it yourself or putting it into like a 3-ring. And I did keep this in a 3-ring binder. And then when we were done with it, I just put it into this folder in case we decide to use it again. But it's got all the vocabulary words, which I did not cut anything up because I just didn't want to destroy this. So I made copies and then cut them out. And I would hang them up with like magnets onto our dry erase board. And that's how they would learn their vocabulary. So we have the introduction and just going through learning about different things. She has like 1 week we do termites. This is a book that you're supposed to kind of cut apart, but I didn't. Just nice pictures. It has some different YouTube videos to watch and bees and wasps and just lots of cool things. You can do a butterfly if you want to, if you can think that far ahead and get your larvae and do your caterpillars and all that kind of good stuff. So that's the science. We her newest one, well, maybe not her newest one, but one of her new ones that I'm getting ready to do with my girls because they're kind of at that puberty level is this one. And it kind of got a lot of questions when it first came out because they were like, oh my gosh, is this going to be too much? But I looked through it and I think it is really beautifully done. It just really talks about how bodies change. It talks about just different body parts. If you're looking for a kind of like a sex ed that's not real, like crazy, you know, I think that this is really good and you can pick and choose. So like, I don't really know if we're going to talk about like, you know, sex, but like, I'm telling you what, like, I feel like I got somebody who's getting ready to start their period. So
Right.
I am all about like having just a lesson that's very, you know, this is what it is. This is what you need. This is hygiene. This is why you need to start scrubbing your armpits because you're going through, you know, going through puberty, your body's changing. And so I just appreciate the fact that I don't have to worry that this is going to have anything in it that might be questionable or along the lines of what maybe our culture would embrace, that this is, you know, strictly, you know, biblical values. It's short and simple. And from what everybody else has said, it's geared towards about 8 years old and up. So I appreciate that it's not, you know, geared towards a 13-year-old, that you can do this with somebody as young as 8 and not be afraid of what they're going to learn.
And I think it's something just like with that's something that even though it kind of can be hard and awkward, it's something that, you know, to not make it that way because you want to keep that open.
Right.
With your kids. You want that to be a completely opened up area so that they are very comfortable with
talking about things with you, you know, because like I want my daughters when their body changes, if they have questions, to come and ask me and not to be embarrassed about it or to wonder if they're weird or normal or what's going on.
Go to a friend instead and maybe not get the answer or the correct answer that was needed, biblical answer or what we try to do.
And this is like, I mean, this is like 8 lessons. I mean, this is not an entire semester's worth of, like, it does not go crazy in depth. You know, I mean, this is not a high school, you know, anatomy and physiology kind of course. It's just nice. It's simple. If there's more questions, they can ask. If there's not, you know, and also like, you know, why is your friend who's your boy, that's your friend, why is he changing? Why is, you know, what's going on with him that would maybe cause him to be a little more modest or to just respect each other as we change and as we grow, and that this is the way God created us. And, you know, I appreciate that I am not going to be surprised or taken off guard, nor do I have to come up with what I have to teach my children and possibly leave something out because maybe I'm a little feeling a little embarrassed about talking about something, you know. So I love that she has everything from like earth and weather and space and stars to, you know, maturation. Boom. You know, so that's everything that I have. I have a few more readers, but that's basically how it's laid out. And we just do language arts. We do language arts every day. Like I am kind of a Nazi about it, also because I don't really want to fall too far behind. And we do math every day, and we do spelling every day. And that's pretty much what we do. And then we just throw in some history, some art, some science. We do handwriting every day. We do typing like twice a month. I mean, it's like, there's not enough hours in the day. But so
With
far,
the
my
typing
kids
in
have
the
gelled with this.
computers, my thought on the typing in the computers is, I mean, I don't think I did typing class until I was
In high school.
an eighth grader or freshman.
Yeah.
And we didn't have the Windows until I was in junior high. That's when all the gateway computers came out with the Windows, and I think it's something that is learned very fast. And
Yeah.
since I've switched from Windows to going to an iMac instead, and there's a learning curve there, but I think it's something easy, and I think it's something that we don't have to stress on so much that it will.
And my girls, they want to type up their stories, and they want to type books, and they want to do stuff like that. But like, I don't allow them to go on the internet. I don't allow them to be on the computer. It's not good for their eyes. It's not good for their neck. It's not good for any of that. And they're not grown-ups. I mean, they're, 10 and 11. Go outside and play. And I also think that they need to practice their handwriting.
Right.
I mean, like, I just feel like you need to write these stories down in books, and then maybe you can learn to type them from the books onto the computer. But I don't want you at the computer all day.
Right. And I do let my kids like to write stories or songs, my older two kids. And so I let them, something that they're doing on their own, I let them do that. As far as, they go in to type, and when they're writing their stories, I got a kid that I don't know how many chapters he's made in his book, but that's fine to do. I do kind of like we go back and forth with things. It depends on how much writing things that we have to do, that I'll sometimes let them do it on the computer. But then we correct it with hand with a red pen. And
right.
Because the computer can be kind of an easy fix.
Easy out.
And, I misspelled a word, let me not sound it out, and we'll just right mouse click and we'll figure it out from there.
Right.
And so I do like the concept of, let's use our thinking that we have and the skills that we've learned, and we'll fix it that way. And, sometimes we do it paper. They hate recopying though.
I know.
Do you have to read? So are you reading some books, like some chapter books, more than one at a time? Or how does that work? So I see in language arts, you have kind of some books that they're supposed to read in, and with the history, you have some other books.
So in the history, those are all meant to be read alouds. We read them as a family. I read them to them now, or, I do a lot of audio. So if I can get a hold of it audio from our library, we listen to it as we're all just sitting together on the couch. Or if we go, you've lived here, so you know that nothing is close to where we are. So if we have to leave to go someplace out of town, you're talking at least an hour to 2 hours, no matter where you're going to go.
Right.
So we'll listen to the book and kill two birds with one stone. Or if maybe we're just out and about in town, we'll listen to the book instead. So, but those are meant not for them to read.
Okay.
Now the English readers, they are meant for them to read on their own. And I will say that my oldest one is at a way higher reading level than what her age is. So a lot of the readers that are assigned to her are pretty easy for her to read. She can just blow through them. These two, little Pearl S. Buck and the other one, she's going to read those in one sitting, and that's okay. My other one, it might take her more than one sitting to read them. Maybe not. But the big ones for history, no, they're meant to be read by me to them. And they're at the age now where I feel like maybe, hey, do one of you want to read a chapter today? And then maybe the next per day, the other person can, and then I'll read it so that I'm not the only one reading it. But they like that I do the voices and all that kind of stuff. So,
right. So do you think this kind of fits in with your classical Charlotte Mason?
Yes, I think so.
Mix of it, as far as the type of schooling, there's all different types, or like 8 of them, I think, that are pretty traditional.
She considers herself, I think she considers herself more of a Charlotte Mason type of style. You know,
Not a lot of tests then or anything.
no, not like none.
But you're reading a lot of the classical books. You're reading a lot of the
yes.
you're doing a lot of the classical history type learning setting, and so there's a little bit of classical, but mostly Charlotte Mason, I would say.
Yes, I would say so. And like really no tests except spelling, but again, we don't do her spelling. Yeah, like hardly any tests. I mean, I test them out loud. You know, I'm like, well, what? So let's review, where were we at in this book and what were we doing and what's going on and what's the main character. And then she'll have them like write a summary about what was read to you aloud today. So like that, but there's no like, okay, there's a separate test booklet and you open that up and do it. No tests so far that have come along.
And that's kind of like the curriculum that I have. But now we do have, so like My Father's World has a Facebook page, and maybe The Good and the Beautiful also has a Facebook page where someone has created files.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That so I can go and print out files. I can go and print out tests because I kind of like just the accountability of a test.
Me too.
And so I can go on to My Father's World. It depends on what where we're at on it, and I can print out tests. I can print out different sheets. Like if they have notebook pages that you're supposed to do like in a notebook,
right?
I go print out the one with the picture and the lines for them to write on, and just kind of, you know, sometimes a visual is, I think visuals are good, and kids are better with visuals. So that's great to know that the Good and the Beautiful also has that.
And they have a whole science, like they have just a science Facebook page.
Okay.
And these people, I don't know, they are way more ambitious than me. Like they create like science walls, and they'll do like the 3-sided display posters that like they'll put the stuff from the curriculum and they'll tape it up there, and they have this like big beautiful thing going on. I'm like sticking them up with magnets, you know. I'm just kind of so, but you know,
the kids have an opportunity, they can go see that too.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you can share that, and there's sometimes it's hard to, like with me, I am not a person that likes science. I just don't like science. I've been appreciating it more because we look at it from a biblical standpoint and like God's creation and how that was made, and just like with astronomy. But like my oldest son, he studies the periodic chart for no reason. I mean, just on his own. And like I could care less really about it. And so it's nice that, you know, the kids can maybe have a place to go where it really feeds something that they are completely interested in.
Yes.
You know, they can learn.
Turn it over to them. That's what I love. So like I've shown my girls a couple of things on Pinterest and on the Facebook page, and I'm like, oh, look, isn't this really cool? Well, when we did our arthropod unit with our other family, there were 5 kids in the class, and they had to do like a poster board or a 3-sided, you know, science board display with facts and pictures of their insect that they chose. We like drew them out of a hat, and then they had to stand up and give an oral report to the whole group. And that was really good for our kids to do, to have to, you know, to see, like some of them took the real easy road, had like one picture of a bug on there and then told us about it. And then you had my kids who they like ran out of room on the 3-sided science display because they wanted to put so many pictures and facts on there. And I was like, okay, let's bring this back a notch, reel it in, and pick your favorite like 15 pictures. You know? But
that's great that they can hone in on something that they love.
Yes.
And run with it. And that's the beauty of homeschooling too, is that you can, I mean, if your kid is someone that absolutely loves science or absolutely loves history, you know, that's something that you can kind of give them the rein on and let them, you know, go their way with it.
Yes.
So
I really love this. I think that it leaves a lot of room for that. I feel like the creativity where they're supposed to write poetry and they're supposed to write stories and they're encouraged to do so is really great. And if you don't have a poetry writer, or a creative writer, you can just skip that and go on, but they're at least getting beautiful artwork to look at. They're having to look at colors. It's not everything's a cartoon. They're having to study the emotions on people's faces. How was that captured? How does that make you feel? So a lot of this is just focusing on the beautifulness of what God has put around us and in us that we can then flesh out onto paper. And so that's really why I love this curriculum, because again, like, we just have enough sass that is just comes by. We just come by it very naturally. We're kind of a sassy family. And then it's fed by the TV and by movies. And, I just would rather put mostly nice things. And my oldest one, she has learned, because in one of these early levels, it talks about what makes a book worthy of reading. And she was reading something, and she was like, I don't think I want to finish this book. And I said, well, how come? And she was like, well, the main character just really is sassy to her mom, and she said a couple of bad words, and I don't think I want to read the rest of this. And I was like, okay, we'll return it. And then we checked out a movie about Nancy Drew, and she loves Nancy Drew. She reads Nancy Drew all the time. Well, this movie totally was not like the books, and we turned it off after 15 minutes. I gave him the choice. I said, do you want to keep watching this, or do you want to turn it off? And my oldest was like, this is nothing like how Nancy Drew is in the book. She would never purposely be malicious or vindictive or vengeful towards other people. She's all about helping to solve the problem. I don't want to finish watching this. We turned it off. We returned it to the library.
That's what makes the homeschool. When you have moments like that, where you see the fruit, you're just like, this is why I do this.
Yep. Yes.
Yep. That's awesome. And that's, that's where I'm not trying to diss public schools or anything, but you don't get to see that fruit. You don't get to see the fruit that you've taught and something that you've really worked hard on, and hope that they get the concept of that. And whereas homeschooling, you get to see that fruit. And yes, you're going to have days of struggling, that it's not fun and games and things aren't going well. But then when you see the fruit, you're like, okay.
And I'd like to say, for people who are starting off little, like with kindergartners and preschoolers, and now all this COVID stuff is hit, maybe they weren't planning to homeschool, but now they're like, I'm not putting my 5-year-old in the mask for, 8 hours a day. I can remember standing in church, and my oldest daughter, who was, I think, finishing kindergarten, and my youngest one was starting, and they looked up at the screen and they could read the words, and she could sing by reading the words. And she was so excited. And I was so moved, because I was like, okay, not only am I getting to see her learn how to read the screen, but I taught her that. I taught her how to read. And now she doesn't just have to rely on, has she heard the song on the radio? Have I played the song? I have to kind of memorize the song before I can sing. She can look at the words and sing along with everybody else. And I just remember feeling so overwhelmed that I had a major role in that. Right. So it's the little tiny things like that make it so worth it. And just there are days where, I'm not going to lie, the public schools, the public school is only not even a mile. You could walk to it from our house. And there are days where I'm like, y'all could all put your tennis shoes on. We're going for a walk. I'm the only one coming back home, but it's just but there are more good days than bad days. And I would just encourage people that on the bad days, you know what? Bake cookies with your kids, have them read the recipe. What is the next step in the recipe? And have them read it. Okay, good. We did language arts. What's the noun in that sentence that tells you to, stir the cookie batter? Well, what's the verb? That's homeschool. You don't have to sit down and do book work every single day of your life. You can bake, you can cook, you can do read alouds, you can listen to books, you can draw a picture. We also did that when they were really little. We read the Boxcar Children, and they had a notebook. And after I would be done reading one chapter, I would say, draw a picture of what I just read. Pick a scene and draw it. And they would draw the picture, and then they would close their notebook, and that was it for the day. So there's homeschool looks very different than what public school might look like in your brain, and that's okay. And just do what works for your family. And I'm for real, on the really hard days, I'm all about just baking cookies and having them read the recipe to me. And that's how they read aloud. That's the other thing. I would have them come in the kitchen and read out loud to me from their readers while I'm cooking. And they could read a chapter or for 10 minutes or whatever. And that helped them to be better at reading out loud.
Right. Yep. And yeah, there's so many things you can incorporate in there. Now, I'm going to kind of finish up here.
Okay.
Do you have any cons in this curriculum? Like, what would be one thing that you wish you could change if there was anything?
I would say I wish that it was more gradual, and maybe with the way she does it now, it is, but
Okay.
it goes from being so teacher intensive. Like my youngest cannot do language arts without me. She can't. Like it's not possible. She can't dictate it to herself. She can't do it by herself. To all of a sudden then my child who's only in the next level up is doing almost everything by herself. And I'm like, how do I really know what you're like learning today? I feel like I need to be more involved with this. So it is very teacher intensive in the lower levels. If you have 5 kids, this probably would be very hard for somebody to do. But if you have 1 or 2 or even 3 kids, not as hard, because by the time you're working with your 3rd kid, your 1st kid is probably working by themselves. So I would just say the amount of involvement that it requires of the parent in the beginning.
But with that though, even with 5 kids, if you're able to tie in your science and your history, and there's no Bible, so you would do your own Bible if you so chose to, but some of that you can throw in together.
Yes.
Because in a lot of curriculums, no matter what, you're going to have, you could choose a different language arts if you wanted to, or choose a different math. And that's just going to be at level anyways.
Right. And I don't really, I do have this to compare to, but again, like when we were struggling, it was when they were in like kindergarten and 1st grade. So I don't really know if all language arts programs across the board for like a 3rd, 4th, 5th grader are as hands-on as this one. I've just heard other people kind of complain about that. But again, like, I only have 2. So when I'm doing language arts with one, the other one is doing her math, her handwriting, her spelling, and anything else she can do by herself. Her typing, she's practicing her piano, and then we switch. I finish with that one's language arts, and I move over by the other one, and I do their language arts with them, while the other one does their math and everything else.
That's so
good. But my big thing, I love the art. I could go through this book and look at the art that she shows you that is, I think, kind of obscure. Like we're not really subjected to, Ferdinand Georg Waldmüller. Like, who is that guy even? Like, I don't even know anything about him. But his art is so beautiful that my oldest daughter even wanted, not this guy in particular, but one of the other guys, she asked me to look him up online and see what his other paintings were. And he does a lot of paintings with children and animals. So like a little girl holding a bunny or whatever. And she was just captivated by the softness and the goldenness of all of these rich colors and textures that are not, Bugs Bunny, Dora the Explorer, and they have their place and I love them. But oftentimes that's all that children are subjected to is animation and computery, not I took a brush and put this on the canvas.
Right. So I think you kind of already did your best homeschool tip with just, switching things up if you got to go bake cookies or do whatever. What do you do to keep it fun?
We go to the library. We, part of my making it fun is I kind of have committed to being done by lunch. Like my role is I'm done by lunch. If you have not finished your independent work by the time lunch is done, then you have homework, just like you would if you went to public school. But all of the fun stuff that we do is, probably outside of our home. We go to the rec center, we go to the library, we read, we do art, we do, we bake. So as far as like the schoolwork goes, I'm not like a let's play basketball and spell. Like I'm kind of like just learn how to spell it. Like I am not here to entertain you. Nobody entertained me when I was going to school. I learned how to do it. I did it. and then we went and did fun things. And so that's kind of how my girls
Work first, play later.
yeah. And you know, I let them listen to music while they're doing their work. If they're like, I just cannot handle this today, then maybe that's why we go year round. I guess we're not having school today because none of us can get our act together and get our brain wrapped around this, you know, and that's totally fine. It is what it is.
Right. So what would be your best organization tip?
A planner. I love my planner. I write everything down. I write everything in pencil so that I can move things around. But I always try to schedule out like 2 weeks at least in advance. Sometimes I try not to go too far because life happens and then there's a lot of erasing involved. But I kind of feel like if you don't have a plan and you don't have a schedule, you're kind of setting yourself up to fall behind and to maybe fail. So I just really tip is find a couple of other homeschooling parents, moms that are on the same page as you for encouragement. If you're like, I don't know if I can do this anymore, or this curriculum isn't working, or I need to change it up, that they can encourage you to press on and keep on going because that's it. You know, for me, it's my planner and my other homeschool moms.
Do you, is there a place where you get your planner?
There is. So I use One Stop Planner, and you pay for it once, and then you pay like a yearly. Okay. I don't know. Okay, mail run. Hello, I'm doing this. So no, you may not. Leave it here. Thank you. So so I use One Stop Planner. This is one they just developed a digital one so that you can like put it on your iPad and add to it and keep it with you like that, or you can print it. I used to use the Well Planned Day, I think is what it's called. And I loved that one, but I thought it had a lot of stuff that I didn't need. And it was $30 a year. And I was just like, I don't really want to do that. So now I print mine from One Stop Planner. She has fun little digital stickers. I can change things around. I can add things in online that are going to be every week or whatever. And I can use as many subjects as I want. So that's the planner that I've used that I like, but I really do love Well Planned Day as well. I love that one.
Good. So what is your best household management tip? Because you are not just a school teacher, you are also a laundry washer and a cleaner and a cooker and whatever else comes with that. A snow shoveler. I heard snow shoveling in there.
I'm the snow shoveler. So you know, if you were to see my house right now, you'd be like, oh, you obviously don't have any organizing tips to give us because it looks like a bomb went off in my house. But, you know, I do laundry every day. My kids have I started teaching them how to do their own thing really young. When they could start doing for themselves, I quit doing for them. So they have done all of their laundry from start to finish for the last like 3 years. So starting when they were like, I think 8 is when they started doing that. I mean, they put it in the washer, the dryer, they pull it out, they fold it, they put it away. So as soon as you can delegate and get that off your plate, I would say do that. The other thing is I do one load of laundry on Monday, one load of laundry on Tuesday, towels. My kids do their laundry on the other days. And I battle my kitchen counter and my desk like it is World War III. I battle it like nobody else's business. It is crazy. So I meal plan. I have to meal plan or we don't. We're eating peanut butter and jelly and breakfast for dinner. So
Right.
I would say, again, like the planner, like I have to have a plan. So even on my like cleaning schedule, you know, I clean the bathrooms on a certain day and I just fight with the kitchen counter and my desk every day.
Have you?
Who makes this mess?
On that, what is her name? She has a book.
Is she the fly lady?
The fly lady, yes. Your hot spots. Those are your hot spots. The counter.
Those are my hot spots.
Yes.
Because they're the community spots. It's like everybody thinks they need to come and put stuff there. Right. And I'm like, really? Like, right. I have enough of my own stuff here. I don't need your stuff here too. It is ridiculous.
But like where clutter collects clutter.
Yes.
It's kind of I think that's so true.
It is bad. Today it is bad. So when I get done with this, the kitchen counter is going to get tackled.
Yep.
Like, it's bad. I mean, I
So,
should. Uh,
hey, it's part of life.
it is.
What do you do when you start to get burned out as a mom and as an educator? What's the thing that you do to go fill your cup so that you can continue to pour it out to your husband and to your kids? Like, what do you do on your own?
Well, I don't get to do a whole lot, but I would say, I have a few good friends, and I go out to breakfast with them. We meet for breakfast early, like 7 o'clock in the morning, and I would meet earlier if they would be willing to do that. And we have a bagel and we have coffee and we walk through Joann's or Hobby Lobby, and then we both go our separate ways. And that's what I do. I just keep some friends that are real, that I can vent my real frustrations to about life, and they can encourage me, and then we go our separate ways and go back to our kitchen counter.
Your kitchen counter. That's awesome. And it's I think it gets to be, especially when you're home all day with kids and you're schooling kids. I mean, you get to the point where you're like tired of saying, "Look at me, talk to me,"
Yep.
And you just want that adultness that comes with that. So that's a good tip. Do you listen to anybody like podcast or blogs or anybody, or you just kind of?
I don't. I don't, because I find that for me personally, if I have too many other good ideas coming in at me, then I wonder if what I'm doing is working well. And then I feel like I need to change it, or I feel like I feel like it distracts me more than focuses me. So I really don't. I have other homeschool mom friends that I ask how they do it or what they're using, and that's kind of how I found our different side stuff, like our spelling and stuff. Is I've asked, hey, this spelling isn't working. What are you doing? But otherwise, I just have such a deep conviction about why we homeschool that it's never really even a thought for me to actually drop my kids off, at a different learning institute.
You might threaten them.
Yes. and I tell them how it would be, like I compare them to like the neighbor kid, like y'all are done with school by noon. He's still sitting in school. Do you want that to be your life? Do you not want to get home till 4 o'clock in the afternoon? Because hello, like I think you have it pretty good. It is what it is. So, I do have to revisit why I'm homeschooling to kind of stay the course. And I have to, because I'm a public schooled person, I kind of function from the framework of public school. And I have to constantly remind myself that it's okay to sit on the couch and watch a Little House on the Prairie with your kids. You don't have to be at a desk doing your schoolwork, and it has to be so rigid. I tend to be a little more of a rigid person because I like structure. But, I just have to keep reminding myself, like, why am I doing this? Am I doing this so that they know how to spell, really well? Or am I doing this because I want them to be able to think for themselves, to be able to critically think and look at the world around them and make good judgment calls? Do I want them to watch a movie and know, hey, we should maybe shut this off? Do I want them to love Jesus more than they love what other people think about them? And so once I kind of regroup, I'm like, okay, it's really not that big of a deal if they don't know how to spell, some crazy word, or that they don't know what a direct object is, even though I've told them 433 times and where to put it in the sentence. Like, is that really going to matter? Probably not.
And sometimes I think too, like with some of the blogs or Pinterest or any of that, we get stuck on the good because that's all we see.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I actually did a post with a friend a while back, a live video on how to live the Pinterest lifestyle, and it was just not really, because it's not real. I mean, what we see, all the time, like what we post on Facebook or what we, read in the blogs, that might not be all real. I mean, this, so sometimes that's good just to be, we're real people and things can go south really easily. And
And that's when you bake a cookie. Like that's
cookie.
because,
I don't bake, so I'm coming to your house.
we bake, we bake and we cook. And, that's when one of the things that I've incorporated, we've decided to go through all 50 states this year. And I bought a cookbook and we cook from each state that we've learned. And the girls help me and they read the recipes and they learn how to measure. And if we're doubling it or cutting in half or whatever. And then also to critically think like, hey, what did that recipe leave out? Like, don't just, even with stuff like simple things like baking or cooking, like just because the recipe said to do it that way doesn't mean you can't add in more garlic or more of this or more of that. Like you need to think like, does that seem like that's enough? Or what are your alternatives? We don't like creamed corn. Like,
All right,
what
we
can
all
do?
really going to only add half a cup of chocolate chip cookie or chocolate chip. Come on now.
So you don't have to follow the book exactly in your life. The only book you have to follow exactly is the good book, and then everything else, use your brain and think about it. Which is what I'm hoping that my kids are learning, to use their brain and think about it.
Right.
And yeah, and I mean
logical thinking.
Yes, they need to do critical and logical thinking, and that's where it's at.
Right.
And in the winter, because you have long winters too. So if you live up north here, like where we live, it's real easy to get sucked into the TV all winter long. All of a sudden you're watching nothing but, Disney movies all day because it's, 30 below zero. And, you gotta stop that and bake a cookie or read a book or, do something else that's not,
I think you can even
not mind-numbing.
You could even throw in serving others. You could do freezer meals for people or something like that. Even to have them stocked up in your freezer. Oh, someone had a baby.
Yep, let's take it to them.
Right. So that's great. What advice would you have parents starting out on this journey?
That your first year, to give yourself a lot of grace. I call it the starter pancake. That first one you put on the griddle that, like, I don't know why it turns out weird. Like it's almost not even edible. Just throw it away or feed it to the dog. But, your first year, give yourself a lot of grace. None of us knew what we were doing when we started off. And for the people who are having to pull like their middle schoolers out, where it is going to make a difference. I mean, I don't mean to like belittle the starting off in first and kindergarten, but there's a lot of wiggle room in first grade and kindergarten, whereas like in seventh grade, not so much. And so find the people you can lean on, because if you need help, then learn what your resources are. Maybe you have another homeschool friend who's figured out the right math or the right language arts or whatever. And to just know that like sometimes your kids don't really want to be around you any more than you want to be around them, and the day is long. And so it's okay to take a break from each other and go to your room or whatever. But I would just say, life is short, but at the same time, this is just 1 year. So if you're starting off, enjoy your child, enjoy them, ask them the questions. If you're pulling them out of public school, ask them what they miss, ask them what they wish that they could still do. If it's being in band, maybe you look for somebody to give them, flute lessons on the side so they can still have that, really.
And I think some schools will allow that.
Yeah.
I know here in South Dakota that if my kid wanted to continue to be in music, they could go and be in music.
Well, I know in New Mexico right now, I have a friend who's having to pull her kids because she doesn't want them in masks all day. And her oldest loves being in band. Well, even if he were to go back to school, they're not going to be able to play instruments because of blowing into the instruments and having particulates in the air. So, whether he was staying home or going to school. The other thing was athletics.
Right.
I have friends here who their kids are going to really miss athletics. And I was like, well, my girls are not going to play, tackle football with you, but maybe we could try to do something like ultimate frisbee or even like lawn croquet or bocce ball, or getting together and being outside together and playing games. Connect with your kids and see, because this is going to be just as hard on a lot of people, a lot of parents who are going to feel like they don't know what they're doing, and a lot of kids who wish that they could just have what they're used to back.
Right.
And just connect with them. What do you wish that we could be doing? What do you want to do? Is this math working? It's okay if something's not working. I mean, obviously you have to do your school subjects, but if this isn't working, then let's try to find something that does work. And because of what's going on in the world today, a lot of curriculums are, a lot of websites are letting you look at their stuff for free. They're letting you do a trial basis. They're letting you print the first 5 units for free or whatever, and to really take advantage of those kinds of things. And just keep it simple. Keep it simple. Like, you don't need all these crazy electives your first year.
We call it KISS.
Yeah.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yep.
Even though stupid is a bad word in my house. But yeah, I think if you figure out what the first year, especially, your kids are used to, especially if they're in older grades, they're used to different teachers. They're comfortable around you. So you're going to get some sass. You're going to get some pushback because they're comfortable around you. I mean, even to get them to do chores, even if they have homeschooled, there's still some pushback. So there is going to be some learning curves for both sides. And I don't, even with public school teachers, I feel horrible for public school teachers right now in the situations that they're in, because I don't think this is what they signed up for at all.
No.
And so just to give, I think that grace needs to extend to ourselves, to our kids, even to the public school teachers or to the public school system. I mean, the grace needs to extend. So
yes, lots and lots of grace. And when you think that you need more, give yourself even more. I mean, I just can't even say, like, it is overwhelming. Like, all of us will tell you, it is overwhelming. And, I told a friend of mine this last week, I do think that every parent is capable of homeschooling their kids, but I don't know that every parent is called to it. So if you're feeling like, this is not what I wanted to do, this is not what I'm called to do, don't let that hinder the fact that, yes, you are capable. This is just a season, and we'll see what it looks like at the end of December before January starts. Just take it one day at a time and give yourself grace, and know that with the right curriculum, I really do think anybody is capable of doing this. You're not going to fail your kid miserably by doing this for 1 year.
Right. And then advice for parents that are not new to this journey, like me or you. Like, what advice would you give me?
I would say, for me, don't get in a rut. Like, I know that a lot of our days look exactly the same. They're very predictable. So have fun. Maybe you do put your books away and you bake cookies and take them to the fire department, or maybe you just have a silly day where you only do board games. I know that I'm trying to incorporate more board games into my homeschooling this coming year, because my oldest loves board games, and we don't have time to do them because when school's done, I got to do the kitchen counter and cook dinner and I'll run errands. And so she gets mad because she's like, why do we even own board games if we never play them?
Right.
So, do fun things, because I have to remind myself that this goes by really fast, and pretty soon, they're not going to be home anymore. And nobody's going to want to play Dogopoly with me. They're going to be gone.
Right. Yep.
So have fun.
Yep. And learning can be, I mean, it is easy to get in a rut because you're just like, let's just get this day over with and be done with it. And we can all go do things that we want to do or that we have to do, as far as, dishes and laundry and the kitchen counter. And I feel you. I do. I have, my desk it's kind of a hot spot. Like, my kids will go put stuff away and it's just like, guys, put it in its home. Like, it has a home. Go put it in there. And then the kitchen counter, I mean, with 5 kids, it's like you feed them and 10 minutes later they're eating again. And you're like, we just cleaned up. Like, seriously, what are you doing? And
Yeah, or like I haven't even cleaned up from the last time you guys were chowing, and now you're chowing again. Like what?
Right.
Just
So,
take a
right.
break.
Well, Mo, I thank you so much for joining me today. It's been great to learn about your curriculum, and there's a few things I think I'm going to try check out.
Yep.
I do recommend people they can to sign up for the Homeschool Defense Legal Act, and
Yes.
it's $12 a month. I highly recommend that, especially now with more people homeschooling. I pray that not, but I see homeschool coming under attack, and this gives you an opportunity to have a lawyer in your back pocket. You can also subscribe to my channel and on YouTube, and I am not tech savvy whatsoever. So I think if you just type in Rachel Anderberg, it'll get you that subscription, where I've had other videos uploaded of curriculums that I've done. Or you can type in virtual homeschool convention, because that's kind of what I'm calling this. And then my videos will come up, because that's how I tagged all of them. So other than that, it's been great to have you. And
Yes, thank you.
maybe we'll get to meet someday in real life.
Maybe that would be fun.
We'd have a soap opera.
Woohoo! Bold and beautiful.
All right.
All right. We'll see you. Bye.
Bye.